All right, guys, back again for another video. In today's video, guys, doing the premiere of season 4, episode 1 of Mayor of Kingstown. The mayor is back. And if you watched last season, we ended on a pretty volatile note, kind of a cliffhanger. And so let's go ahead, let's talk about it. So I will say this episode probably starts a few months after the events of last season, because if you guys remember, Kyle ended up shooting Robert. And so we're dealing with the aftermath of that. And we find out that they made a deal. They made a deal, and Kyle got 2 years. He was looking at 15, and he'll probably serve about 6 months. So that's kind of this episode is 24 hours of preparing for Kyle to go to prison and everything that is going on in the works. You know, we have Mike working behind the scenes to make sure his brother is protected when he goes inside. So that means meeting with Bunny and talking to Carney and even meeting the new warden, which I'll get into later. We have a new warden. And so, of course, Mike's trying to protect his brother, but at the same time, try to keep his sanity. I mean, Jeremy Renner, man, he's killing it on the show. And if you know what happened to him a couple years ago, to come back from that and still be doing what he's doing, salute to him. So let's go ahead and talk about the episode. So in the intro at the beginning, hey, there's a new crew in town. And they are not messing around. They are going medieval. I mean, at the beginning, we see these guys tied up, bound, laid out flat over some railroad tracks, and they get guillotined by a train. And the leader of this new crew, I believe the man's name is Frank Moses, played by Lenny Jones. Great actor, great actor. So he's going to be probably the new baddie of the season. That's going to be wreaking havoc, probably towards Bunny and of course towards Mike, messing up his world. But what we learn is, or I will say this, with this guy coming in and it appears executing some Russians, that means Constantine and Milo, they're off the board. They are out of the game, which I think is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that storyline, it went on a little too long. I'm actually glad. This probably sounds bad. I'm glad Iris is dead. I couldn't stand the character. And so I'm glad all that is in the rear view and we're moving on to another threat. All right. So I talked about the new warden, played by Edie Falco. The new warden's name is Warden Hobbs, and she makes it very clear with her introduction. She's talking to the staff, letting them know what's not going to be tolerated, how she gets down, her history, how she comes in. And when an institution is subpar, she comes in and fixes it, does a complete overhaul, and turns it around. So essentially, she's a fixer. She's somebody that doesn't stay very long. She comes in, cleans it up, and moves on to the next destination. But you know, she lets everybody know that, and especially our man Carney, because you know Carney. You know, I think Carney, man, he's loyal, but he gets shit on. Like Mike treats him. Mike should give Carney a little bit more respect, but Carney, he goes out there, he tries to tell the warden, "Hey, I was Kareem," which was a bad move on his part. Goes up to the warden, brown nose, and talking about, I was Kareem's right hand man, and basically offering his services, and she's looking at him like, let me tell you what. She tells him basically like, look, Kareem was inept. Basically, he was in over his skis, didn't know what he was doing, incompetent. And I would definitely not want his right hand services. So, like, she basically puts Carney in his place and lets him know whatever you was doing before, it's a new day. And I'm running the show. And that transitions to her later on having a meeting with Mike, of course. And she establishes very quickly, like, hey, this is my castle. I understand what you had going on with the last warden, but this is my show. I run the show. And Mike's like, look, hey, I just want you to, I want to make sure my brother is safe. And she's like, look, I treat if you look at my history, violence is not tolerated where I'm at, and your brother's going to get treated like every other inmate. And that's kind of the end of that situation. So Mike knows right away it's going to be a problem for him. And like I said, she makes it very clear that it's a new day here. And then She also pulls, God, I can't think of his name, but she pulls the young black kid that was working there, that was family with Bunny and them. She pulls a surveillance camera, basically him signaling the attack, and she basically lets him know, like, I sign your checks, and whatever you do outside of here, it's over. And she's letting him know, like, you will be dealt with. And so the thing about that is, it also shows that there's a possibility she's not necessarily 100% clean, or she doesn't sometimes skirt that line, because really she should have turned him in. Like, he should be in jail with Kyle, but for some reason she let that slide. So it'll be interesting to see what's the whole deal with that when we get her character more fleshed out. Now, staying in the prison, we're with Ralph. Ralph is Bunny's probably number 2 man, his cousin. He's running things on the inside with the Crips, and things are starting to change in there. Because the Crips, they were the big dogs in there. Like, everybody, for the last 2 seasons or so, they've been running the show. They've been running the yard. They had the keys to the yard, and so they're working on a deal with I believe his name is Roberto Cruz. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but let's just say the Black and Brown coalition it's just not working right now. It's starting to fall apart because Roberto, he's starting to feel himself, and Ralph is picking up on that. He's feeling himself, and it appears that maybe Roberto knows something. He knows something's about to go down, and so he's got his chest out because he's like, it's going to be a new team running the show. And Ralph, like I said, picks up on that, and he contacts Bunny, and they have a back and forth or whatever, and so he lets Bunny know what's up. Like, hey man, something ain't right. Something's definitely rotten in Denmark over here, and basically gives him the heads up. And there you have it. Now, speaking of feeling themselves, my man Bunny is, you might as well call him, at least how he thinks of himself, how he perceives himself, is Bunny the Untouchable. He acting like he Nicky Barnes or something, like Mr. Untouchable or whatever. Mike's telling him, hey, about these Russians that got clipped. And, of course, Bunny said, I ain't got nothing to do with that. But he's telling them, hey, this might be a new crew coming in town. They may come after you. And he's just like, man, ain't nobody took a shot at the king. And, and then once again, they're establishing Kyle's protection. And Bunny says, basically, if he gets out of segregation, administrative segregation, Ralph will have eyes on him. Like, basically tell him to be all right. And then, of course, Mike's stepping out, and Bunny's like, hey man, stay positive. And so episode continues. Bunny's doing his king shit. He's driving around the streets, and some Colombians, they try to take him out. They take a shot at the king, but they miss. But it's letting Bunny know, hey, Mike was right. There's somebody else in town, and they're coming for him. And so that means the streets, they may have been quiet for these last couple months, but the streets is about to get loud out there, because Bunny, once again, he's going to have to go to war with this unknown threat at this time. So he's definitely, hopefully this shakes him out of his Mr. Untouchable, because it's letting him know that, yeah, somebody's coming for his head. All right, so I kind of just want to wrap this up and talk about a little bit more about Kyle, Evelyn, and a little bit about Robert. So we'll start with Kyle. So Kyle has his send-off, says his goodbyes, to his wife. He goes out, has a drink with the guys. And what we find out is Kyle has not given up Robert. Most people probably would have, but we find out it's not out of some sense of loyalty to Robert. The reason why he doesn't give him up is because Robert, he knows all the dirty secrets. He knows all the dirt. So if he was to give up Robert, I mean, everybody's going down. Stevie, I can't think of the bald white guy detective, who he's in a lot of trouble too. But Stevie, him, of course, Mike, Carney, everybody's going, even Mitch from the grave, everybody suffers. So like, they were able to work out that deal. He gets 6 months. And that's the thing. Like, I get where Mike wants to protect us, but like, look, dude, he's only going away for 6 months. That's a short ass bid. But I do get Kingstown is a dangerous place. And matter of fact, we learned that out in the first episode because before Mike sends off Kyle, he lets him know, like, look, man, people gonna get at you. If a prisoner looks at you in a certain way, don't look away, but don't catch their eye. Which I get what he's saying, but yeah, and he's like, stand up for yourself. Somebody attacks you, make sure you put them down. And so, he gets tested right away. Inmate attacks him, which who could? Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder could see this attack coming, but this inmate attacks him with a lock and a sock, and eventually the guards get there, but Kyle's pretty banged up, and I can't think of old boy's name. I'll put it on the screen, of course, after I edit this, but the guy who was dealing with last season that got blown up in the attack on the yard, who probably was the dude who mentored Mike when he was doing his bid, but you hear him talking to him through the vent, like basically giving him the, advice, like, hey, don't go to the sick bay. You stay in here, you heal in here. Basically telling him, like, you go in there, your life's over, like you're gonna get killed. So he's slowly trying to gain his trust or whatever. It'll be very interesting to see what this goes, because the whole thing is Mike doesn't want Kyle to turn into somebody like that, or turn into one of these guys where for a few less to just bluntly put it, turn into a savage. And so he wants him to stay who he is, who the guy he was when he went in. He wants him to be that guy when he comes out. And I think that's going to be Kyle's whole plot throughout this season is, will he stay who he is, or will he ultimately have to become something else in order to survive? Which I'm going with the latter. I think, and anybody who's probably went to prison, they can tell you never come out the same way you went in. And so I think there's going to be something that changes in him. And Mike has to know that too, as somebody who's done time as well. So also want to discuss Evelyn and Mike. Evelyn and Mike officially have fallen out. Like, do I think towards the end of the season, will they come back together possibly? Normally I would say yes, but I say no to this. And the only reason why I say that is I think Evelyn's high on my death predictions list. I think Evelyn is going to get taken out. It appears they're setting all that up. We got Robert, that psychopath Robert, just following her, catches her, following her around, lurking in the shadows. Even the detective, I forgot his name, the bald white guy, I'll put it on the screen. He even suggests in so few words that, we can't really depend on Mike. Something's got to be done. And so you put a battery like that in the back of somebody like Robert, you know where it's going. So Evelyn's high on my deaths predictions list, but of course, her and Mike have fallen out. And the thing about it is like, I love the mayor of Kingstown. I love Mike, but it seems like a lot of the time Mike's relationships are one-sided. He wants you to do everything he asks, but he does hold his end, but it seems like he doesn't carry it equally. The way he does Carney all the time, just get it done. And that's partly why him and Bunny kind of fell out a little bit, is because of how he would go at him. And then the thing with Evelyn, he wants Evelyn to do all these things except her job, and not understanding that she occasionally has to do her job that may bump up against what he's got going on. She has to, or she's going to end up losing her job. She's got bosses. And so, like, a lot of the time, I think Mike just kind of forgets all about that. And I think that's true in life. Whenever, we want something done, we tend to forget about what other people have going on, and we want it done. And so, unfortunately, these two have fallen out. They kind of were in a situation ship. They would give each other companionship, but I really feel, I think Evelyn's gone. I think they're going to take her out this season, and so, because Mike even talked about, his list of people he cares about And of course, he told his assistant she's on that list. But as he was talking about that list, Evelyn came in, and I'm pretty sure she's not officially on the list anymore, but I think there's still a piece of her that Mike cares about. He's just mad about the whole situation with his brother. But I think before they can make amends, I think she's going to get taken out. That's just what I think. But yeah, guys, to give a score for the episode, if you're new to the channel, the score is my scoring system is 0 to 5, 0 being trash and 5 being a masterpiece. I gave this a solid 4 out of 5. I thought this was a great introduction to a new season, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, guys, if you listen this far, guys, like I always say, if it's for 1 minute, 5 minutes, or the whole damn video, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to view my content. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe for me. Get in the comments, thumbs up this video, get it out there in the algorithm, get it out here for other people to see, and tell me what you thought about this episode if you checked it out. So with that being said, everybody, it's your boy P signing off, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.